Here we're having a look at where a driver just blindly follows a driver ahead of him at an intersection that contains traffic light and poses a threat to any oncoming vehicles. In the animation, we see that the driver of the light green vehicle is still a distance from the intersection. These two vehicles are waiting at the intersection for the traffic light to go green. Let's run the animation. At this point, the traffic light has gone green for vehicles traveling in both directions. The driver of the darker green vehicle is closer to the intersection and has enough time to safely turn left through the intersection before this vehicle arrives. However, for the driver behind him, he doesn't have that same time and space. However, he just blindly follows the driver ahead of him because he had made it safely through the intersection, thinks that he can do likewise, and lands up colliding with the vehicle in the intersection. So be cautious of this scenario because this happens quite frequently, and especially where there are a line of vehicles waiting to turn through an intersection and they cross over the path that you may be traveling. So in this case, the driver just blindly followed the driver ahead of him. Let's have a look at a real life clip showing this now. So we'll see that the first driver has enough time and space to turn through the intersection before the cam arrives. The truck is veering off to the right, so he's not a threat in the intersection. So he can make it safely through. You can see enough time and space. However, the driver behind him thinks that he can do likewise, but poses a threat. In the second animation, a little bit similar to the first animation, however, we've got more vehicles in the line here, and where the added risk is that where you've got a number of vehicles in the queue and they're closer together to one another, then that actually cuts down or reduces any visibility of oncoming traffic. And so for the driver of the red vehicle, he's got two vehicles ahead of him in close proximity. So as they creep forwards towards the intersection, his view of any oncoming traffic is now limited and maybe completely obscured. And so in a case like that, you've got to be even more cautious, both if you, one of the vehicles wanting to cross over the intersection, make sure that you can see clearly any oncoming vehicles before you do so. But also if you were the driver of the light green vehicle and you see a line of vehicles waiting to cross through the intersection, as you're approaching, you see that a few of the vehicles now feed into the intersection and turn through the intersection, then know that any vehicles that are further back in the queue are likely to do the same, although they don't have you fixed firmly in their sight. So just be cautious of that. That's what happens here. The driver of the red vehicle didn't have visibility of the driver of the light green vehicle and just blindly once again followed the vehicles ahead of him. In the real life clip, we see this demonstrated quite aptly. This first driver has made it safely through the intersection as the camera is still a distance, gets a bit closer. Second vehicle, likewise, also has enough time and space to make it through the intersection, but notice that the visibility of any vehicles behind this vehicle is quite limited and obscured. So just as the camera won't be able to see any vehicles behind this particular vehicle, likewise, any vehicles or drivers behind this vehicle cannot see any approaching traffic. Now, if you, in a situation like this, be extremely cautious because you know already two vehicles will have passed through the intersection, so drivers behind them think that they can safely do the same and just blindly follow the drivers ahead of them. If you have multiple lanes like this, then it would be safer to actually get into one of the lanes that is further from the middle of the intersection. That allows you a bit more time and space to formulate an escape route and also give the vehicles crossing more time to be able to notice you and take corrective action.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.